Well, when you have a stroke or a heart attack or a knee injury or anything, you can look at the negative side of it and say, oh, I've lost this, that, and the other thing. I've lost. But actually, you've also gained, and no one looks at that side,
Mhm.
or no one tends to look at that side. I think people are afraid. So, options means you can choose to look at what you've lost. You can choose to look at what you've gained.
This is the Recovery After Stroke podcast with Bill Gassiamis, helping you navigate recovery after stroke.
Hello and welcome to episode 218 of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. Now that the episodes have gone beyond 200, I'm getting addicted to seeing 300 episodes, and I'm loving doing these episodes. And I want to hear from you. I want your stories. Sharing your story is good for you and it's good for the rest of the community. Together, we're going to make a difference to each other. This is how we support each other. And this is how we bridge that gap of feeling alone after a stroke. So if you're a stroke survivor with a story to share about your experience, come and join me on the show. The interviews are not scripted. It's like catching up over a cup of coffee. It's just a chat between two people with something in common. You do not have to plan for it. All you need to do to qualify is be a stroke survivor or care for someone who is a stroke survivor or help people who are stroke survivors. If you go to recoveryafterstroke.com/contact and select be a podcast guest in the drop down and fill out the contact form, as soon as I receive it, I will respond with more details on how you can choose a time that works for you and me to meet over Zoom. Also, I would love to hear from people that have any stroke related questions. So I compile some questions and make some shorter episodes that give you my perspective on your burning questions about stroke recovery, life, whatever it is. Of course, they cannot be medical in nature as I'm not a doctor and cannot comment on your specific situation, but they can be about stroke related matters. Once again, if you go to recoveryafterstroke.com/contact, but this time select the Ask Bill a Question drop down, leave the details in the box with your question, and when I have enough of them, I will make an episode dedicated to your questions and hopefully give you an insight into something that you were wanting to know about, and hopefully that'll help you with some clarity or maybe with something else that you are needing right now. My guest today is Eileen Haas, who was putting away her laundry into the laundry basket when suddenly along came a stroke. Eileen Haas, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Tell me a little bit about your story, how you got to be in the situation you're in.
Well, it just happened. I was going about my life and it just happened. And it changes everything. Your life is never the same, but you do have one. Um, Having a stroke is like, it teaches you a lot of things. It teaches you acceptance, which I fought it for about 2 years. And then I finally accepted this is the way I am. So while I've gotten much, much better, still I obviously have deficits I have to deal with. But over the years, I have learned to deal with them.
So you were just going about life. What was life like? What were you up to before the stroke?
Well, I had a full-time job. I had a big house. I had lots of friends, a busy social life. I traveled a lot. Um, just ordinary stuff. And when I had my stroke, it was a beautiful Saturday morning. The sun was shining. It was cool, but not too cool. And I was folding laundry in preparation to put it in the linen closet. And as I was folding laundry, I felt something happen in the back of my neck. And it was pretty rapid from then on. I knew I was having a stroke. I knew it right away.
Mm-hmm. In 2014, how old were you?
I was 61, and it was 2013, May. It's like it becomes engraved in your memory. It was Memorial Day weekend, 2013, when I had the stroke. And like I said, it changes everything in an instant.
Were you home alone?
I was home alone. I was in a really scary situation, something everyone thinks should not happen to them, but it does. You know, even if you live with someone, even if you have a family, you still have times when everyone is out doing something and you're home alone and you never ever think anything's going to happen. And maybe it won't. Maybe you'll go through life and never have to think about this. But it happened to me. I was alone. And the scariest thing is I had no presence of mind. I couldn't think straight. And I only could remember one phone number, and it wasn't 911. It's like I should have remembered that. I should have called it, but I couldn't even think of it, which is really frightening. So the only phone number I could think of was one of my friend up the street. It was her cell phone number, and I knew she had a key to my house and could let herself in. So, like I said, I was in a really scary situation, but I did what I had to do.
Yeah. So did she answer the phone immediately and come over immediately, or was there a delay?
You know, it's a miracle that she answered the phone. She never answered the phone. I was got voicemail. So, and half of me was expecting voicemail. She picked up immediately. It was amazing. And she started to question me. And I heard her boyfriend in the background screaming, "Get over there now, get over there." And so she said, "I'm coming over." And she hung up. And in a few minutes, she was right up the street. She entered the house. So I was lucky on a lot of fronts that I remembered her number, that she picked up, which was amazing, and that she came over and took over. She was a very smart and level-headed person, and I knew that if anyone could handle that situation, it was her.
I love it.
She did.
I love it. Sometimes we've got friends who we love, but they're unreliable. They never return your calls. They never pick up the phone. But then one day, when they don't know that something is needed, they somehow know to do the right thing, exactly the right time. Right? I had friends like that, and they came out of nowhere, and it's like, you really surprised me in a lovely way. Thank you. And it's not like we judge them for their tardiness in responding to messages or calling us. It's just that they have a habit and they continuously do the same thing. And then every once in a while, you get an amazing surprise. And yeah, it sounds like your friend stepped up just when you needed her the most.
I don't know what I would have done if she had to come over. I don't even let myself think about it.
Yeah.
I just don't go there. But I would have thought of something, or maybe not, because I blacked out soon after.
Yeah.
And that was the end.
Yeah. Now, when you woke up, you were in hospital. How long did you spend there?
5 weeks, a long time. But and I don't know how long I was out for, because whenever I ask people, they miraculously can't remember. You know, that's something I would remember. And everyone says the same thing. Oh, I don't remember. Yes, you do. You just don't want to tell me. So I leave them alone. But when I came to, which could have been the next day or the next week, or I don't know, I was in ICU. And I don't recall when they moved me to a regular room. I think I was in ICU for just a few days, and they moved me to a regular room, and then I was moved to another hospital, a rehab hospital, where they really started working me. So,
Yeah. And what were the deficits that you were ended up with after all of this saga?
I ended up with a weak right side. I still have a tremor, and I'm going to see a team of neurologists in December who supposedly are going to do something about it. So I'm still working on recovering. I figured it's a lifelong process for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to develop patience. So obviously my voice is greatly affected, and I don't know why. No one can tell me why.
Mm.
Supposedly, my vocal cords have not been damaged, but I can't talk properly. And it bothers me the most, but I have gotten better and better and better. So at least I can talk to you now. I can talk to anyone.
Mm.
And I'm not afraid to do that. So even though I know I sound really strange, but I'm understandable.
Yeah. Properly.
Strange, but yeah,
And you can communicate. So it's a great
yes,
thing. Yeah.
yes.
Now, I heard of somebody who I met actually in my hometown in Melbourne, Australia, who had a stroke and their voice changed to a different accent. They were a similar accent to me, and
Yeah.
they picked up I think it was a French accent, and they have no French history or relatives, or they don't know French, but they have an accent that sounds like they're a French person learning to speak English in Australia. It's so bizarre.
Oh, it's very bizarre. My speech therapist told me that I would end up with a European accent. And I thought, what? Are you kidding? I'm American. I was born here. Um, but some people think I'm from Europe. And I have to laugh when that happens because I'm not. And I don't, sometimes I speak with that kind of accent. I know I
Yeah.
do.
And which part of the
So
United States are you from?
I'm from New York City.
Wow.
New
Okay. So
York.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So your accent is definitely would have been noticeable. You're a New Yorker. There's a special way that New Yorkers talk, and we would have
Yes.
known about it immediately. And now you haven't got that part of you that you had in the past. Is that a shift in your identity as well? Does that impact how you identify with yourself and how you see yourself?
Actually, it has not. I find it amusing,
Yeah.
but I'm still who I always was. My voice may be strange, but and it may sound European sometimes, but I'm still the person I was before.
Yeah.
I have the same interests, the same personality, for better or worse, and very little. The only things really that have changed about me are physical.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have not changed at all.
Yeah.
You
You,
do change in the beginning.
yeah.
You do change, but eventually it all comes back.
Your self comes back, your personality, the way you perceive the world and see the world might alter a little or shift a little, but your essence remains, doesn't it?
Remains. Yes, it does. It does. And I have to say, there's a point at which you wish certain things would not come back, and they do, and you think, oh, not that one, and you're kind of stuck. But in certain ways, that first year or so, you something gets stripped away. I don't know what to call it, but something gets stripped away, and you connect with people in a way you never have. And it feels really good. But then gradually that barrier comes back. It comes way back. And there's nothing you can do about it except to bid a fond farewell to the way you enjoyed being.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. So that means that your full-time job was no longer something
No.
you were able to do. And have you been able to get back to work in some way, shape, or form? Any type of work?
Well, no. I had a really good job. And the first year, I was adamant that I was going back to work. And then after a year, I realized I was not going back to work. It took years before I could have gone back to work. And by then, my job had been long filled. So I retired early, and the only thing I knew I was really good at was writing. I've always been good at it. Since I was a child, I was good at it. So I thought, well, I'm going to write that book. I've been talking about it for decades now. And so I did. I wrote a book.
You had a really you had an interesting experience and topic to talk about now, and
Oh,
plenty of
yes.
time by
Oh,
the sounds of things.
yeah, that is interesting. You have a lot of time,
Mm,
but it gets filled. You sleep a lot.
mm,
I mean, a lot. I mean, you're always sleepy. You could go to sleep at any time anyway. You can
mm,
go to sleep. So all that time gets taken up by sleeping.
mm.
And then later on, when you get past that, you spend a lot of time in recovery, trying to learn to do things you can no longer do.
Mm,
So you end up with more time, but it gets taken up.
mm.
It gets taken up a lot.
And as a result of that, does that mean you have less time, or is there less of energy for socializing and for friends and for things that you were doing a lot of before the stroke? Did you find that?
Uh, yes, I found that I couldn't go out as much. I go out. I do the things I used to do, but not as much. And also, I had so much energy. I was like an endless fountain. And now I get tired. And I realize the point at which I have to stop and rest. And very often, that's it for the day. Usually, I'm fine to the evening, which is really good. For a long time, I was not. And now I can, it's a slow evolution.
Mm,
Recovery is, and you have to work hard at it. And at some point, I realized that I didn't have the stamina I used to have. So I made myself stay up, do things. I went from doing one thing per day to doing two, to doing three, to doing four.
mm.
And, I train myself to stay up and do things. Otherwise, you can easily fall into the habit of just sleeping.
Mm. Fatigue is generally a very big issue for people who have a brain injury from stroke. And
Yes.
is that
Yeah.
you're describing your level of fatigue and neurological fatigue was very high at the beginning, and it's become better as time has gone on by the sound of it.
It has, but I'll tell you, it took years
Mm, mm,
to get to the point where I could work on my stamina. In the, 4 or 5 years into this, I took naps during the day. I
mm.
never took naps in my life. I couldn't even imagine taking a nap. I could not sleep during the day. N- After the stroke, I needed to.
Yeah, I recall
And
myself as well.
yeah, now, I'm at the point where I never nap anymore.
Mm,
But it took me about 6 years to get to that point.
yeah, I can relate to that. And a lot of people watching and listening will relate to that because sleep and napping is how you recharge your batteries. It's how the brain healed. It's how you are able to reset for the day and go again for a little longer before you got to the end of the day. I also couldn't last towards the end of the day. I couldn't last if I hadn't had a nap during the day. Um, and then I would have to be in bed earlier and potentially miss out on an opportunity to go somewhere or catch up with some friends. So a nap was really helpful, and it made me feel a lot better. And it was necessary; it was essential. Without it, I couldn't. I couldn't operate. Now, travel. What about travel? Have you been able to travel since then? Have you? Is there something on the to-do list?
Well, I have traveled cross country many times, so I can go to the airport and walk to the terminals and do all that stuff. I can say it's pleasant, but it has nothing to do with having a stroke. It's just unpleasant. But yes, I can travel, and I have traveled. I'm taking a hiatus right now because I moved so much. I finally decided to stay in one place for a while. Uh, so I've stopped traveling. I'm going to do some more. And it's interesting. Um, I'm going to take a long car drive next month, and all my friends are really worried about me. Can I drive for 4 hours? 5 hours? Can I really do that? Are you sure? They keep asking me, are you sure you can do that? And yeah, I am. I have done it before.
Yeah.
So I don't have any compunctions about that. But people treat you differently.
Mm.
They really do.
They're afraid that you are somehow more vulnerable, and they feel like you're not a good judge of your own abilities, and therefore they get worried, or overly concerned, or worried unnecessarily. Sometimes, legitimately, and they're trying to look out for you, and they don't know how else to look out for you, and that's the best they can do. So they try to ask a lot of questions and see if you will answer the appropriate way or the correct way.
Sounds like you have a lot of experience with this.
I do. A large Greek family, and a lot of love and care. Sometimes too much love and care. Not that there's such a thing. I don't think there is. But yes, at some point, boundaries are necessary. You need to start creating boundaries and re-educating people that you're going to be okay, and that you need them to give you the space so that you can relearn your boundaries and relearn what your capabilities are, and do all those things that you need to do. And it took me many years to convince them. And fair enough, because I wasn't my old self. And I went through 3 years of 3 brain hemorrhages, and then brain surgery, and then recovery for another 2 or 3 years after that. So it was about a 6-year saga before I started to feel like you, that I've come around to the other side, where my life is starting to have some kind of routine and normality, and things that are not related to hospital visits all the time or rehabilitation visits all the time. Even though I still had the one checkup a year, even though I still consider myself in recovery, that intense version of always in doctors' offices, etc., ended. And when that ended, I kind of felt like, oh, okay, so now I've got some time for me to go to do the things that I want to do again.
That's correct. All correct.
What was it that caused the hemorrhage in your brain or back of your head? Where was it exactly?
I know my cerebellum was wiped out.
Wow.
And that apparently is the seat of language and movement. So, I am lucky that, and you are too, that my frontal lobes were not affected at all.
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
obviously am very affected or somewhat affected by my stroke.
Mm.
So what caused it? Doctors never told me.
Mm.
All they told me was, we don't know.
Mm.
They can't even agree if I had an aneurysm that burst or a blood vessel that was weak. This, they were not sure. And, I'm at the point where it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Something terrible happened in my head.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
But, doctors don't know that much about the brain.
Mm.
As you probably know,
Mm.
they are just now really studying it hard. So I think in a few years they'll know a lot more. But right now they just don't know.
It's a very complicated organ. In fact, probably
Yes.
the most complicated of them all. And it is just such a weird and bizarre thing to look at and to try to unwrap and determine like what goes on in between those little squishy bits. It's really weird. It's not like a heart. It's not like the liver. It's not like the kidney. There's a lot of stuff in there that it's impossible
Yeah.
to look at and see actually how does it all work, because it works with electrical signals and charges more so than with physical parts. It is a big physical thing, but I think the brain exists to create a space for electrical components and parts to flow through, the neurons and all the things that create all our abilities to move, talk, look, see, move. And it's different from a pump, which the heart is. It has, parts that physically move. They go up and down, and they suck oxygen in, and they send oxygen away, and then they recycle it. And it's like, the brain doesn't have so many moving parts. It's this solid blob of a thing, and it's weird. So it makes sense that they don't know about it. But yes, of course, we'd love them to know more about it.
We would.
Yeah.
Where do you have your hemorrhages?
Near the cerebellum. So it has impacted my left side, and it has impacted my balance a little. And it was kind of in a faulty blood vessel that burst, an arteriovenous malformation, an AVM they call them. So it's different from an aneurysm. And it was something I was born with, and it was bleeding over a long period of time. So the first time it was bleeding over 7 days. And then they tell me that I was having micro bleeds for a good 2.5 years before we finally removed it.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I would have some really strange, scary episodes where I would get fuzzy, or I didn't know where I was or what I was doing, or didn't recognize my wife at one point. So there was a whole bunch of weird things that were happening over these 2.5 years. And then I had the surgery and removed the faulty blood vessel. So it can no longer bleed because it's not there anymore.
Good.
But it was, it is good. And it was near the cerebellum. So I was lucky that it wasn't the cerebellum that was impacted directly. It was secondary impact there. So did you have surgery to fix the blood vessel?
I had surgery. I actually don't know what kind of surgery I had. I think I had a craniotomy. I think the neurosurgeon who I met, but I was so out of it, poor guy. I think he operated on me to release the pressure that had built up in my brain. But the blood vessel, they didn't say anything about it. So I don't know if it if they repaired it or if it's been bypassed or what. I actually don't know all that. Maybe I should, but it's not going to change
Yeah.
anything. It's
I,
really not.
I love your attitude. I mean, I would be dying to know. I would want to know every detail. What did they do? How did they do it? Da da da.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm shocked. Not that, not that I need you to have a different point of view. I'm shocked that you don't know whether you had a craniotomy or not. That's a pretty dramatic
I
thing.
I asked many times what happened
Yeah.
to me, what happened inside my head, and they all the doctors I talked to shrugged and said, "Well, we're not exactly sure." So that was a
Yeah.
terrible answer, and they probably did tell me what I had.
Mm,
I have just forgotten.
yeah. Fair enough. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Because at some point you just don't remember a lot.
Yes.
You just don't. I think they give you drugs so you don't remember. That's what I think, but who knows?
Potentially. So you put a lot of effort into writing your book, and it isn't yet released, but it will be soon. People can
It will be.
pre-order it.
Yeah.
Its forthcoming release date is October the 11th, 2022.
Yeah.
And the book is called Along Came a Stroke. Tell me a little bit of about the book, what it does, how does it take people through your story?
Well, I tell my entire story as I remember it, which, don't hold me to everything because I may have gotten something wrong. Um, it is kind of upsetting in the beginning. It was very hard to write because I had to relive
Mm,
everything that happened to me. And I didn't want to. I really did not want to go there, but I had to. And during my recovery, which took years and I'm still recovering, and I probably will be for many more years, um, some funny things happened to me,
mhm.
some unexpected things happened to me, and I sort of learned a lot as I went along. And so I ended up writing this book to let people know what I learned, how people react to you, and what you can do to make things better for yourself. And that recovery will not happen fast, like you wish it would.
Mm,
Everyone wishes they could just learn something in a day. No, it may take 3 years to learn that one little thing. But you have to have a really good attitude. So I wrote this book to take people through what happened to me and how I've recovered, and the things I've learned, the things that help me with recover from my stroke and are still helping me, and how patient I've learned to become because I was not a patient person. No way. Um, but you learn patience because it's not going to happen overnight. And doing something 100 times is not going to make it better. It really isn't.
mm,
Um, you'll end up hurting yourself. But a lot of books about strokes emphasize the brain and what happens, and takes people through the scientific explanation of what happened to them and how they can recover scientifically and all that. But I'm not a scientist. I find it fascinating. I think science is great, but that's not my bent. Um, and also, when you have a stroke, it's like science will not help you. It really will not help you learn to walk, learn to talk, learn to use the bedside,
Mm,
all those things. Science is not going to help you. It's great to know why and to understand what happened to you. It is really great.
mm,
But from then on in, it's up to you to help yourself get better. And so all those things went through my mind, and I talked to a number of people who have had strokes and found that they really didn't know what I had figured out. And so I ended up writing this book to help them all.
so it's a bit of a guide as well as a recollection of your story.
It's both a guide and a recollection, yes.
You know that part where you had to go back and relive the traumatic experience of the stroke? Was it later on, did it become therapeutic? Was it good to download that onto the pages and get it out of you so that it no longer sits in that place where it was causing you trauma or difficult emotions or uncomfortable feelings? Was it good to get it out of your head and download it onto a book?
It was. It was really good to get it down on paper. And I thought, that's it. I'm never going there again. And I felt that I didn't need to. So that felt really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I'm concentrating on most now is they say if you've had a stroke, I don't know if you've heard this, you're more likely to have another one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my focus now,
Avoiding another one.
avoiding another one.
Yeah.
Although I had a neurologist tell me that I will never have another stroke because the type I had, it will never happen again. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe she's right. I can only hope.
Yeah. And some steps to prevent another one, or at least to play a role in being healthy as possible and to avoid another one, I think is really a smart move. That's basically my approach now, is that although the blood vessel is no longer there and it can't bleed again, I don't want to be responsible for contributing to another one down the road
Yeah.
and making myself and doing something wrong by myself. You know, it's about protecting myself and learning from what happened so that I don't give myself create the environment where a stroke might happen. And that's exactly the approach. I don't want to be responsible for doing that to myself. That's a terrible thing to be responsible for.
You should not be.
Yeah.
You should not be.
Yeah. Yeah. So the book, how long did it take to write?
About 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I wrote half of it pretty fast, and then I put it away for a while. And it was a friend who encouraged me to write the second half.
Why did you put it away?
I felt that I had said everything there was to say, and it wasn't long enough. And I thought, well, why should I make up things that didn't really happen? So, And I found that writing the second half, I had a lot more to say. And I could have written more. And it was my publisher who stopped me, who said, enough, it's good, leave it. So, yeah, that's what happened. But I put it away because I thought I was done, and I was not done.
Yeah, you just probably needed to live those additional experiences and have that additional time to dwell on what had happened and how far you've come so you can develop your story further by the sound of it.
It's true. It's true. And every day brings something new and different that I wasn't expecting.
Mm,
And I learned something about myself. So it's like your whole life, you learn until you die. You learn. You're always learning.
yeah.
And it's the same with writing a book. There's always something more to say. Always something new that happened to you that you can talk about.
Yeah.
But it did take a long time. And I think for most writers, it takes a long time.
Mm. Was it good to have a long project for you to have something to focus on for such a long amount of time, even though you had a gap where you let it go and you weren't doing much? Was it good to have something to go back to and to complete? And what does it feel like when you complete the manuscript and you hand it over and you've got this thing, that you did, even though you're going through a difficult time because of the stroke?
Well, it's good in that I feel that I can still do something. I can still contribute. I can still write. And that has not gone away, and I hope it never does, because I really enjoy it. So in that sense, it was a good thing. And also, I knew I wasn't going back to work. I mean, this was pre-COVID. So I thought, who will hire me? No one. So I just wrote a book, and it felt really good. It felt so great to know I could still do something.
Yeah.
And it was long term. And when I finally finished it and found a publisher, which was pretty fast, I was relieved. I felt good. It's like I didn't feel. You always have the feeling that, I could have written more. I didn't cover this subject. There's always more you could have done. But if I had been like that, I would still have the book unfinished.
Mm.
And at some point, you have to just say, okay, I'm done for now. I'm done. But it wasn't hard to give it up to someone else. It was, I know a lot of writers have a problem. They feel like it's their baby, and they are just not giving it to someone else. But I never felt that way. It felt good and right to hand it over to someone else.
Yeah.
It was like I finally finished.
Yeah. A relief by the sound of it.
Yeah, it was.
Mm. So I'm looking at the Barnes and Noble page where the book has been listed online, and it has an overview of the book. It says, "Along Came a Stroke" recounts Eileen Haas's personal experience from the instant her stroke occurred through her subsequent hospitalization, rehab, and beyond. This remarkable and inspiring story is recounted with humor, triumph, and honesty, Haas's indomitable spirit and keen insights shine throughout and will encourage anyone facing a life-changing event.
I've had people read, obviously a preview, but read the manuscript who never had a stroke, and they loved it because everyone's had something. Maybe it wasn't a stroke, maybe it was cancer, maybe it was a heart attack, maybe it was a lung problem, whatever. People, almost everyone has had something, and they all relate to having been really sick and having gotten well. So that feels really good.
Yeah, it's relatable to everybody because although we've been through different experiences in life or health concerns or whatever, the underlying issues are there for everybody. You know, people's vulnerability, people's loss of mobility, people's loss of identity, people's loss of their sense of self. All these things do occur to people who experience a whole bunch of different conditions, and as a result of that, we've got a lot in common. There's similarities there with people who are not stroke survivors and survivors of something else. So it's good when a book can be about stroke, but then applicable to anybody and everybody, because stroke's just that thing that makes your story unique to you. You can say, well, these are the things I learned because of stroke, and I wonder if they're similar to the things you learned because of cancer, or you learned because of, I don't know, a knee injury or a foot injury or a leg injury, who knows. But I love how it bridges the gap and covers people who are not stroke survivors. That's really cool. The reviews on your page at alongcameastroke.com/book say a beautiful memoir, a wonderful book that people of all ages can learn from. Another one says informative, engaging, and darkly funny. Along Came a Stroke is a recovery memoir everyone needs. And then the Midwest Book Review says readers to include not just stroke survivors, but anyone interested in the nuts and bolts of returning to normalcy after a life-altering experience must place Along Came a Stroke at the top of their reading list. Ideally, it will become an active part of book clubs and reading groups devoted to recovery, healing, and better understanding the processes of optional survival. That's an amazing review.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm happy about it. I'm happy about the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really say a lot. That last one specifically, the next phase of the book, you know, this person who wrote that sees it as something that needs to be part of book clubs and reading groups devoted to healing and better understanding of the processes and options of survival. That's interesting. That last part, options of survival. What is that? What are the options of survival specifically? What does it mean to you?
Well, when you have a stroke or a heart attack or a knee injury or anything, you can look at the negative side of it and say, oh, I've lost this, that, and the other thing. I've lost. But actually, you've also gained, and no one looks at that side, or no one tends to look at that side. I think people are afraid. So options means you can choose to look at what you've lost. You can choose to look at what you've gained and be positive about it. Yes, you have lost. You have. I'm a realist, and I wouldn't say I haven't. I have. But I've also gained some really invaluable things that cannot be measured. Yes, I talk funny, But you know what? I'm really calm about things now. Nothing gets me excited. I feel like I've been through the worst and come out the other side. And so, what are you telling me? Something bad happened to you today? Okay. I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So, all these are choices. And if you choose to get better, you have the option of choosing to really get better, become a better person, or you have the option to focus on what you lost and will never regain. And, you're not going to change. And, all those things are choices.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you have to make a choice. You have to.
What
I
are
think.
what are some of the things that you've gained? Have you gained the ability to choose better? Is that something that you've gained?
I think I've gained perspective. I've become, I hope, a better person. Like I said, I'm calm about things. I don't get all upset about little things anymore. I just think, oh well, who cares? And before I would have gotten very upset. So I have gained, and I feel like I'm a wiser person. I'm a better person.
Mm.
I'm a calmer person.
Hmm.
And those are really big things to have gained. You can't compare that to having lost like my my normal voice. I still haven't gotten it back, and I may never get it back. But I have come to the point where I am happy that I can talk at
Mm.
all and I can communicate. So that's what I mean about options and becoming better. It's like you really do have choice.
Yeah. And you said you became a better person. So what specifically does that mean? Yes, you make better choices now, or you have a better ability to talk and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like you're talking about something deeper, that you specifically are better as a person than you thought you were earlier on before the stroke. Doesn't sound like you were a terrible person, but it sounds like you've improved as a person. Is that right?
I think you gain compassion
Mm.
for other people.
Mm.
For the first time, I found that I could really commiserate with people and see how they were struggling and see how they were bothered by things.
Mm.
And I became more empathetic.
Mm.
It's like I don't blame people as much as I used to.
Mm.
And you have a certain arrogance when nothing has happened to you
Mm.
and you don't think so, you don't feel it, but you don't realize until something does happen that you can be a different person and you can be a better person,
Yeah.
even though this awful thing has happened to you. It's made you softer.
Yeah. And less arrogance is a really good thing, I think.
It's a really good thing.
Yeah.
You become happier, actually,
Yeah.
as you become more empathetic and understanding of others.
Mm.
I think you become a happier person.
Yeah. I do definitely understand people better. I spent some time in a wheelchair, so I completely now realize that being in a wheelchair is not just the fact that your legs don't work. It means so many more things than that. And and that people in a wheelchair are not just sitting down, and that's not easy to do, to be sitting down all the time. And that was kind of what opened my eyes the first time to the plight of other people. And then it's like, okay, all right, now you know what it's like to be anything other than somebody who walks perfectly on two legs and doesn't even think about their legs ever and doesn't even consider running upstairs or any of that stuff. Now you know what it's like. So that's interesting that I discovered that I was that naive and I was that unaware. I just didn't realize how much I didn't know, how much I was ignorant about things that that were all around me all day, every day, in communities, in buses, in trains, in shopping malls, in just general life. And for me, I was so unaware of it. And I'm not sure that it was terrible that I was unaware of it. I had just no lived experience, so I couldn't relate to it. But now I can, and I'm glad that I can relate to it because that makes me more caring about other people. And it makes it possible for me to notice when somebody needs a little bit of help and reach out to them at the right time instead of the wrong time and assume that they're not capable. It's that thing that we said about before, where people over assume that they think that you're not capable, so they try and help from that perspective. But for me, it's more about actually, I think I know when I need to help you. I think I can tell better and give you space until you're ready for the help that you need, So it's been really interesting for me as well. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Now I also was in a wheelchair for, and now when I see someone in a wheelchair, I smile and say hello because I know what it's like to sit in that chair, and I know what. So yeah, you become a different person and a better person.
Yeah. So I will have all the links to your book, your social media on the show notes that people can go to. They can go to recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes and they can download the show notes. And from there, they'll be able to get your links to go to the book. But it is available on Amazon for pre-order, I believe.
Yeah,
and
it is.
You can get a copy of the Kindle for, I think, under $10 or something like that, and a copy of the paperback for under $20. And it sounds like it's going to be really worthwhile for people to pick up and read. It's about 258 pages, so it's not a novel by any stretch of the imagination. Sounds like it's just short and sweet and going to be like a really lovely, easy read.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That was my intention.
Yeah. I think you've achieved that.
People that has strokes often have a hard time reading.
Yes.
So I purposely made it easy to read and easy to follow. People have had strokes to be able to read it.
Yeah. I love reading, but pages in books are difficult for me, and I prefer the audiobooks. So I wonder if maybe you'll be able to get somebody to do an audiobook for you at some point in the future.
I have my publisher says she is looking into it a while ago, so I have to nudge her gently again and see if she can get the ball going on that.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think an audio version would be people.
There is a stroke survivor who has been on my podcast who does voiceover work, a female. She's a lovely lady. And what I might do is put you in touch with her just so you guys can start the conversation and perhaps maybe you can learn about the process that is necessary. And if you'd be happy for me to do that, I'll do that. I'll set that up just so you guys can chat about it. I'm sure she'd love to share some of the things that you might not know that you need to know about that.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, reaching out. I really wish you the best of luck with your recovery and also with the book. And I look forward to following your story from here on.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for joining us on today's episode. To learn more about my guests, including their links to their social media profiles and other pages, and to download a full transcript of the entire interview, please go to recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes. If you would like to support this podcast, the best way to do it, and the way that I'm going to really appreciate it, is to leave a 5-star review and a few words about what the show means to you on iTunes and Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, comment below the video, like the episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell to be updated and to be notified of future episodes as they become available. Sharing the show with family and friends on social media will make it possible for people who may need this type of content to find it easier, and that may make a massive difference to somebody that is on the way to recovery after stroke. And I will really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening, for being here again, for making this show worthwhile, for leaving me amazing comments and telling me how much you love the episodes. I truly appreciate you. See you on the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamas. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.